Okay. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning here in Spain for Jennifer and I.
Yep,
Might be
morning for
any time
me.
of the day for you, wherever you are. So welcome to this Thursday live stream in the Hub. And got a really exciting topic today, something that we haven't actually covered in the Hub so far. So Jennifer Murray here is from Best Words Copywriting, and we're going to be chatting about copywriting, what it is, some myths around writing, three top texts for every ELT professional to have, and just generally have a bit of a chat. So thank you very much, Jennifer, for coming along.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So, I mean, when we published your bio, you said, well, Best Words Copywriting creates website and marketing copy. What is copy?
Yeah, good question. And it's one that I get asked a lot. People often say, oh, this is a really stupid question, but what is it? And it's not a stupid question at all. So copy is basically content with a commercial intent, which sounds kind of sleazy, a bit queasy, because, within ELT, we're teachers, educators, learners, we're not salespeople. So for lots of people, it sounds a little bit queasy, but basically it's material that could be on your website promoting you and your services. It could be an email newsletter that you send to subscribers where you're educating, informing, giving information. But there is that commercial intent, you're promoting your services, your offer. And so that's why it can be quite difficult to do, because it's writing about yourself, but also writing about yourself in a commercial context.
Yeah. So there's always some element that you're trying to sell something.
Yes, and I think selling for many of us has a sort of idea of manipulation. It's like big business. And that's not necessarily the case. We're selling our services that we know help people. So if you're a teacher providing online lessons, that's helping your students to improve their career opportunities, to move on, to develop new skills. So I think we shouldn't feel that we're being manipulative. We're being honest and transparent. But that can be difficult to get over at first.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So when we were kind of getting ready for this session, we were exchanging a few emails, and obviously, well, when we were sending messages, all these kind of little typos crept in, and you commented kind of one of the myths is that mistakes don't matter a lot of the time. What did you mean by that?
I see a lot of mistakes, a lot of typos, or the wrong word in the wrong place, or things like that. So I think one of the big myths about writing is that everything has to be perfect and correct, and that's not always the case, because there's so many different types of writing. I mean, we know when we're teaching, we wouldn't want our students to make spelling errors in an exam situation because they would be penalised. But when we're doing very quick writing, like writing to each other, writing emails, does it really matter if there's a typo or we've put things in a kind of clumsy order? We're communicating. So I think when writing is about communicating between people, it doesn't really matter if it's not 100% perfect. But I think within the scale, like if you're writing on your website for an audience that you're hoping will contact you and find out more about your services, you do need to be correct then, because that's you on a professional level. So I think that writing's got that whole sort of continuum from personal to professional to maybe commercial. And I think along that continuum, it's important to select your words more and more carefully the nearer you get to the sell part of it.
And I think, I've certainly noticed on social media, when teachers promote themselves, when they post something, people are much quicker to kind of jump in and go, that's the wrong word, there's a spelling mistake there. It's like, you're a teacher, this should be perfect.
Yes. And I think like social media posts are there's so many of them, they're so short-lived that it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's good just to own the mistake and say, oh, yeah, I did make a mistake, because that's what our students are going to be doing as well in classes. And it's a time pressure thing as well. But yes, people are very quick to leap on things.
Yeah.
And maybe even in the way that they wouldn't do in class, that you'd collect mistakes and review them anonymously at the end of the session or in another session. But you're kind of out there in public and people pounce.
Yeah, they definitely do. But I must say, now that you can edit your WhatsApp messages, I'm very happy.
Yes.
No longer will I be going, oh my God, I spelt that word wrong. Edit.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. What were some other myths that you feel you've come across in your work as a copywriter?
I think there's three big ones, and they're all, they can all be busted. So the first one maybe is that writing, any sort of writing, but especially writing copy, requires some sort of special talent. Another one that, and this is maybe more general, that writing is effortless. If you're a good writer, you just sit down, it all flows, and the job's done. And then that one that we touched on before, that if you're writing about yourself or your services or your business, you're being kind of sales, being a salesperson. And I think all of them are bustable. So writing requires talent. I mean, what is talent? Talent is a set of skills that you can learn, you can develop, you can improve, especially if you have feedback from other people. And so that's gone. Talent is a set of skills. Writing is effortless. Well, I'm afraid not. Writing is hard work. It takes effort. It takes time as well, and it takes time where you're away from other things. And I think if you read it like the Stephen King book, read any work by well-known successful authors, they'd all coincide with that it takes time, dedicated time as well. But it's a case of finding the time, and then you can do it. And then about the salesy thing, I mean, we live we live under capitalism. We have to make money. So selling yourself, promoting your services is something that we need to do. But, as we said at the beginning, it's not about tricking anybody. It's about being honest and transparent. And also when you are writing to promote yourself on social media or whatever, you're doing lots of different types of writing. Like some of your posts are just for entertainment. Some of them might be to educate people, to pick up on a common error and examine it. You might be inspiring someone with a quote or something like that, or informing them about an upcoming event. So I think when you take all of those different types of writing together, the sales and promotion part is just a part of it. So you're not only doing that. I think if that was all you were doing, then you wouldn't have much of an audience. Your audience want a bit of everything: entertainment, education, information. Yeah. So those myths are all, they have an element of truth, but we can, you can develop the skills, you can find the time, and you can write about a lot of different things.
And so how did you develop your skills, or how did you decide to go down this path into copywriting?
Well, I've been in the ELT for a long time. So I started as a teacher. I did some teacher training. I was a centre manager. Then I moved into publishing. So I started to work for Richmond, and then I've worked for other publishers. And it just really hit me one day that I was a bit tired of course books and working on course books. I mean, I still do some work on course books, but I just got a little bit, I was thinking more and more about language and how people learn language and how people learn and how people teach. And it didn't kind of fit anymore. And I realised that I was actually doing quite a bit of copywriting. I was writing book covers or materials for blogs or for catalogues and things like that. So I took a sort of step back and thought, well, how can I develop those skills more? So I've done different copywriting courses about writing in general, about UX copywriting, which is looking at the features of websites and how to guide a user, a visitor through the website. I've done copy coaching, so I've been in the copy hot seat where a group of peers are giving you feedback on what you've written and how you've written it, which is one of the best things that people can do. It's really good for your writing. And just, developed my skills as much as I can and started to do writing jobs for other people. And at the moment, I'm still writing my own website, but it will be live in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, that's something to look forward to. So I think just, looking at, it would be the same for any classroom teacher who's deciding what the next move is, where do I want to go and what skills do I need to get there? And I think we see that quite a lot in ELT, people moving from teaching to training or teaching to writing or teaching to editing.
Yeah, excellent, fantastic. So you gave me the title for this session, which is, it's not you, it's me. Why is it so hard to write about ourselves? So what is it? I mean, you've mentioned before this kind of idea that we perhaps don't feel comfortable selling ourselves. Do you think there's anything else about it as well?
Yes, I mean, I think that's one of the big ones, but really writing copy is sort of, you speaking to your audience. So there's another 5 things that make it kind of hard. Maybe the first thing is like really knowing yourself, like who you are, what you do, why you do it, what's your big why they speak about in marketing and promotion. What's the real reason that you're a teacher? And I think when you come down to it, it's a job that you love, but going a step further, you really are empowering your students for the future, so it's kind of being clear about what you do and why you do it. Then we're all terribly modest as well, so any time that we're asked to speak about ourselves, we all sort of, oh no, I'm bigging it up, I'm tooting my own horn, like we've been taught not to do that. So I think finding the balance between being proud and being modest is quite hard as well. We should talk about our achievements, because I think that lots of us have achieved lots of things. Like we've moved to work in different countries, we teach. I mean, there's so many people who just could not go into a classroom and teach 10 5-year-olds or a group of 8 salespeople, and we do that every day and deal with parents and deal with management. We've lived in different countries and we've done a lot of training, so there's so much that we should feel proud of. And when you're writing online, you've got to write, you've got to say quite a lot with not many words, so it's quite a succinct type of writing, because people are going to, they say that if someone lands on the homepage of a website, for example, it takes them 8 seconds to decide if they're going to stay or go. So you've got to get people's attention quickly. We feel, what we said before about feeling uncomfortable and insecure and, a bit, that's not me. So sort of doubting your abilities. And then maybe the final thing is being clear about who you're writing for. So, who is your audience? Is it other teachers? Is it students? Is it the parents of the students? So that's quite tricky to work out as well. So it's funny, because a lot of these things are things that we deal with in the classroom. Like if you're teaching a writing lesson, you'd speak to the students about who's going to read the text, build an image of the person in your mind and be really clear about why you're writing and the structure. But when it comes to doing it yourself, we kind of forget all the things that we teach and just start doubting everything. So I think, that makes it tricky. So you have to kind of work through those things and get clarity on all of them. And then writing online or writing for online readers, it brings a whole sort of other set of issues as well. People don't have much attention, they're watching, they're scrolling through things on public transport, they're looking at their phone in the bathroom, we're overloaded with information, formatting, the way that you set things out on the screen, all of those things are really important. So, we've got the old myths about writing, the difficult things about copy, and then writing online are, all of those things make it difficult, but none of them are things that you can't get over with practice and clarity.
When you're working with clients, how much do you feel you have to kind of change their tone? Because I guess a lot of your personality comes through in your writing as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, because another thing about the online world is that it's so overcrowded, and there is material out there that's not authentic, and becoming more and more so maybe with AI writers. So I think it's really important for people to have their own personality and their own voice. And that comes from the sort of knowing yourself thing as well. Like, how do you speak? Like, do you swear? Do you not swear? Do you use a lot of adjectives? Are you very authoritative? Are you writing as an expert? Are you writing as a peer? So I'd really encourage people to think about how they do speak. What sort of tone of voice do they use? Are they humorous? Are they serious? Are they sarcastic? Or are they not? How they use language. I mean, how inclusive is their language? I think that's an important thing. Because I know you had Mary on talking about it recently. There's still so much copy out there that talks about native speakers and become a native speaker, learn from native speakers. So is that the sort of thing that you want to include in your messaging? And yeah, it's not what I want to include, but so thinking about things like that. But I don't find rather than correct people's tone of voice or their brand voice, I find more that people haven't had the opportunity to develop it. They're not really sure what their brand voice is. So it's something to think about. And I mean, one way to think about it is just to record a conversation like this one, or a conversation with a friend where you're talking about what you do, and something that happened at work, but something that you love about your job, and just transcribe it, have a look at the sort of language that you use. And that is a really good thing to use something like ChatGPT for. You can stick your transcript into ChatGPT and it will analyze it and tell you what you sound like, if you sound approachable or friendly, or all those sorts of adjectives, and that's kind of your brand voice there. So it's something that you can investigate a bit more.
That's an excellent tip. Are you worried about ChatGPT and AI written materials?
I mean, I think it will have an impact on lots of things. I mean, I use Bing quite a lot and ChatGPT. So I use them for things like summarizing, for example, if you've got a report, or maybe for kind of ideas, like 6 topics for a blog, or for analysis, like things like that. Like I've taken transcriptions of reviews that I've done for people and analysed them for my brand voice, or as a summary of what are the key things that we talked about. So I think as tools, they're really, really useful and will save us a lot of time. As writers, I don't think it's quite right. The AI writers write by summarising everything that's on the internet up to a certain period of time. So they're not really summarising what your audience does or needs, or what. It's very generic. And then also I've done things like my little texts, put them into ChatGPT out of curiosity and ask them to improve them. And what comes back is something that just sounds so unlike me and so formulaic. They've added in lots of adverbs and adjectives, and everything's like sort of super powered up to the fantastic services offered by. And so I think there will be companies and organizations who go on that route of just using AI generated content. So there may be companies who are happy to just be a bit bland. But I think if you really want to speak in your voice, to your customers is too generic. Things
Yeah.
might change in the future, but I think it's really great as a tool, and I'm sure there's loads of things you can do for classroom. And one of the things we should be doing in classrooms is helping students learn how to use these technologies as well. So like writing prompts and so on. So I don't think it will completely replace any writers, but there will be people who use that. And then they'll see what happens to their engagement online and if it's successful or not. But I think, and everybody, we all use the internet and we all land on pages and just bounce away from them because they're not giving us any information or entertaining us or being informative. And those are still the pages that are going to be more successful. The page where you find it, you read it, and you take something away.
Yep.
So let's see, famous last words could be back in the classroom.
No, I mean, because it ties into this idea of voice, because I used it one time to write, like every Monday when we have new members, I write a little welcome post and I used ChatGPT, and it just didn't sound like me at all. It was very generic, very bland.
Yes, and I'm sure you can train it more. So the better prompts that you have, so if you did some previous work on, establishing what your brand voice is and establishing who your audience are, and each time you ask it to write something, you remind it, I am this person, I write in this style, and it will become more and more sophisticated. But yes, I've just found that anything that I've generated has taken me so much longer to rewrite it than it would if I just written it myself.
Cool. So talking about writing about ourselves and creating texts, you said you were going to share with us 3 top texts that every ELT professional should have.
Yeah, so I think there's 3 little texts that it's worth just sitting down and developing. And once you've got them, you can repurpose them. So I thought we'd look at each one and just look at the sort of format and then how you can repurpose it. So the first of these, and this is the one that makes you feel most awkward, is the elevator pitch. So this is really an oral text rather than a written one, but I think it's a good thing to practice writing, and then you'll start to remember it and have it. So it's that that awful moment when you meet a new person at a networking event or a conference or even at a job interview, and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" or "Tell me about yourself," and you just freeze. So if you can create a short text that it's about 30 seconds and just practice it until you've got it almost word perfect, that will really help you in that sort of moment. So I mean, I've done one for today that's so if someone says to me, "What do you do?" and rather than freeze, I'd say, "Oh, I'm Jennifer. I'm a copywriter for ELT. I help ELT freelancers and small businesses with their marketing. I create content for their websites, and I offer coaching and editing services. And I've worked in the industry for over 30 years. So I understand what students, teachers, and publishers want." And everyone then says, "What?" and you have to repeat it again. But, I just find that developing something like that really gives you confidence, and you can change it, you can edit it. But an elevator pitch does 3 things. So it's what you do, who you do it for, and why you're unique. So I'm a copywriter for ELT freelancers and small businesses. And I'm unique, which I know is a bit of a queasy term, but everyone's unique in some ways. I'm fairly unique because I've been in the industry for 30 years in the classroom and in publishers. So that's a kind of unusual combination. Yeah, I'm not the only person, but that's kind of my superpower, if you want it. So I would say, just write it, practice it, record yourself doing it, learn it, and you'll find that you've just got it when you need it.
Yeah.
It's also it's a little text that you can repurpose for your social media bios, for example, if you've got a profile on Instagram or in LinkedIn for your LinkedIn headline. So it's, short and sweet text that tells people what you do.
Yeah. And I think, like, when you were saying it, like, whoever's listening will pick on the words that are important to them as well. So, you're not kind of saying it so that the other person remembers everything, but, you've got the key information to address whoever you might be talking to. Yeah.
Yes, and it really gives you confidence as well, because you're not sort of thinking, oh, what am I going to say? Or even in social events, it can happen, especially if, you're a sort of more introverted person. I'm sure for other people, like my brother has no need of an elevator pitch because he just, get into a group and start talking, but we're not all like that. The builders are going crazy again. All sorts of construction out there. And then the second one is your bio. So this would be, a sort of brief summary of who you are, what you do, the same sort of information, but a slightly different format. So, maybe about 50 to 80 words. And it's the sort of thing that if you are going to speak at an event, you might need to provide for the programme. Or if you publish anything, it would be your sort of author bio on the website. It might be something that you, if you, appear in a webinar or something, it's your abstract there. So it's slightly different. This is the one that I sent you. So Jennifer Murray has been in ELT for decades. She's been a teacher, a trainer, an editor, a publisher, and more. Now a copywriter at Best Words Copywriting, she creates website and marketing copy for ELT freelancers and offers one-to-one copy coaching services. So it's not an oral text. She's a late learning swimmer and can dive in at the deep end of the pool now, which is my proudest achievement. So this one is slightly more formal. It's written in the third person. It includes some of your professional accomplishments, maybe. If you've taught 150 students through Cambridge First, that would be a good thing to include there. Something a bit personal as well, so my swimming. And then, you would have a link to your LinkedIn profile or your website or a social media sites like Facebook or whatever. So, you can include something personal as well about sports or hobbies or music or travel destination. And it's a really great little text to have ready, as we said, for conferences or publications, but also if you're in any sort of directory for jobs, you need to have a bio there. If you appear on any podcasts or if you write any guest blogs for colleagues and peers, it's the sort of text that it's great to have ready instead of every time thinking, oh no, I've got to write a bio. Just have it ready and you can update it if you need to.
And would you normally recommend that people include that personal bit?
I think so, because it's helping you, it's helping people get to know you a little bit more as well. And, so the more you know somebody, the more you trust them, and the more you like them. You wouldn't believe the number of people who have asked me about the swimming stuff as well. Or, people mention their pets or, I was going to say children, but maybe you wouldn't want to mention your children because you don't want them out there on the internet. But, it just gives a little bit more of a glimpse of who you are, what you like as a person. And so I would choose something that's going to appeal to most people, choose something that's going to reflect that people are going to find interesting, or they're going to, feel, it inspires people. It makes you feel more real, I think. I think it's a really good thing to include because there's so much impersonal stuff out there as well. I think it makes people more genuine, and that's important.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is a bit longer, would be your sort of about section on a social media site like LinkedIn, or your about page on your website. So this is a kind of longer text. I mean, in LinkedIn, I think you've got round about 350 words that you can use in that about section. And the about page on the website would be about 300 to 500. I mean, you never have to reach the upper level either. Things can be shorter, but it's a more extended bio. So you'd be looking, you need to start with some sort of catchy intro to get people to read on. And you're talking about what you do, how you help people, what makes you special. So what are your skills, knowledge, expertise, experience? I think you'd also here want to talk a little bit about, something personal as well, like your values, what you believe about teaching. Is a good one, because that's a good way for people to decide if they want to get to know you better, if you could work well together. And you'd also use things, social proof, so things like testimonials that you've had from clients or recommendations from students, any sort of credentials like courses that you've done, qualifications, things like publications. Even if you're publishing your own material, I would include an example of that. You could talk about students' exam results if you work in an exam centre, the number of people you've trained and what they've then gone on to do. So all your kind of achievements that are relevant to what you do and what you want to do. And then what's important in those kind of texts is to have a call to action at the end. So what do you want people to do after they've read about you? To contact you, to send you an email, to share the information, to, what's the next step? So it's a longer text that take quite a long time to write. And one of the most important things about it is it's called an about you section, but it's not just about you. It's about you, your client, and me, the business, and what you can do together. So you plus me equals us. It's not your CV, so you're not saying, oh, no, I mean, in 1983, I went to university. It's really what you do and why you do it so well. It's personal as well, so don't be bland. Use your voice, use your personality. Put up a photo of yourself, even if it makes you feel a bit cringy. And it's not set in stone, so it's something that you can change and update, and you find that you probably do change and update it quite a bit. But once you've got it, it's really a useful text for things like job applications or what you posted yesterday about the motivational letter. You could cut and paste and edit your about section to fit that letter quite well. And you can also break it down into short posts for posting online and on different social media accounts. So it's worth taking the time and doing it. And it's also the sort of thing that you could show to a friend or to a colleague and say, does this sound like me? How can I make it more about me, even though it's about you plus me is us?
Yeah,
but
I really like how you talked about that. Kind of bring those two worlds together, the you and your clients, whoever you're trying to attract. Yeah,
it's because that's why they're going to read it. I mean, they're looking for a teacher, they're looking for a writer, they're looking for a copywriter. So they want to find someone that they think, oh yeah, this person will understand me, and I'll be able to collaborate with them. I think we'll get on all right as well. So it's like an introduction. So so I would do that. I'd create an elevator pitch, a short bio, and an about section, and improve them, rewrite them, but keep them updated so that you've got them. When someone asks you, oh, will you come along and chat in my do a Facebook Live, you think, oh yeah, I'll just send this, rather than starting from scratch every time, because that's when writing about yourself gets really difficult. You're having to do it in a hurry, to a deadline, and you send something that it's not really about you. It doesn't show who you are, what you do, and why you're so good at it.
Awesome. 3 great texts.
Yes. Yeah, so be good to see if people share them in the Facebook group as well. We could do some feedback on them.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Or I'll just ask everyone to write their elevator pitch.
Yes.
Whenever I have someone coming along to do a live stream, give me your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So going back to your elevator pitch, I noticed, I can't remember what the exact words were, but you seem to have that kind of rule of three in there. You were helping students.
Yes.
Do you think that's an important element, the rule of three?
Understand what students, teachers and publishers want? I think so, because it's something that it must be something within us that we like that sort of structure of 1, 2 and a 3. You know, it's kind of musical, rhythmical, or at least. And I'm sure we've all seen the stuff about Obama's speeches as well. It's something that Obama really did, or Obama's speech writers really did, is get that rule of 3 in. So I think it's something that speaks to us, rhythmically, and it's something that we seem to find easy to hold on to, easy to understand as well. And I think, a lot of life is like that, isn't it? Like we've got family, friends and colleagues, or students, parents, directors, a lot of our lives are in threes. So yes, I think it's something that I do quite often, maybe too often, but I definitely do it. Yeah. And one thing about the more you write, the more you realise the things that you do. So one of my things is writing lots of longer sentences that are all about the same length. And so that's something I try to work on. And I do wonder if that has come from sort of standard texts that we see in a lot of ELT course books as well, that tend to be about the same sort of length. So it is quite interesting to look at how we work with writing in class. I think we'd be helping our students a lot by looking at how to write for online readers as well. I mean, they have to do for and against essays because it's going to come up in an exam. But how to write a blog post, how to write a social media post, how to write your headline for LinkedIn. I think there's lots of things there that would make, for good classroom activities and
life skills, really. Yeah.
And they're not so much covered in published material yet.
And another question, how do you feel about exclamation marks?
Oh, I love them.
Yes.
No, I was in a session yesterday. A copywriter was talking about writing headlines and subject lines for emails. So he'd done quite a lot of research about symbols and punctuation, and does it make people more likely to open your email? And his conclusion on exclamation marks was that he personally fought against them. He's a little bit older than me, so he's like more, had a more traditional writing background. But he had to concede that one exclamation mark was really helpful. So I'm quite in favour of an exclamation mark.
Because I think that, again, going back to this thing about voice, like I feel like a lot of my writing would have exclamation marks at the end.
And that's very much kind of like the way you speak, isn't it? And I think, when we talked about like conveying your personality, so anything that helps show who you are, how you speak, what you're like as a person has got to be useful, I think. Maybe I wouldn't go for 10 in a row, but definitely the odd exclamation mark is a good thing. Yeah.
Fabulous. So, are there any kind of resources that you would recommend people look at if they're either thinking about getting into copywriting or for writing their own copy?
Yeah, I've looked. I'm reading 2 books at the moment, which are absolutely brilliant. So I'll just make sure I tell you the right author's name. I'm looking here. The first one is more about sort of business writing. So if you have to write a report at work, but he does talk about social media writing and copy and things, and it's called Writing Without Bullshit by Josh Bernoff. Which it's a really readable book as well. So he talks about simplifying your writing, making it clearer, by doing all of these things that we talked about, like knowing your audience, knowing what you're talking about, he talks a lot about working with other writers, working with editors, the sort of creative process, and how important it is to have a sort of process, or else you go into what he talks about, the 3 Ps: procrastination, panic, and prayer, because you're running out of time. So it's a really readable book. So there's a lot there that's about copy and about writing for work. And then another book that I read recently is The Reader's Brain, which is it's a study from neuroscience, but looking at how we understand, when we read, how we understand text. And it's just absolutely fascinating, because there's a lot of things about how the passive is actually really difficult to understand if you're reading. A lot of things about using nouns versus verbs, about writing sentences. So it's much easier to understand if you have a real subject, not subject pronoun. And they did, it's from Yellow Lees Douglas is the name of the author, and she worked at Cambridge University. And it's a fascinating look at really how we understand. Why is reading so difficult, and what does that mean for writing? So I think that's a really useful book for any sort of writing, and especially if you're teaching. We're teaching reading and writing in our classes. So how can we help? So they're 2 really good books. I didn't prepare any other lists of resources, but I think starting with them would really give you a lot of information about writing better, writing more clearly, wherever you're going to write.
Yeah. And you mentioned as well the Stephen King book. Was that?
Oh yes, on writing. Yes. So that's really interesting. I mean, I've never read a Stephen King novel. Now I want to read them all. So the first part of it is just kind of like his biography, and how he got into writing and how he became so successful. And then the second part is really more the sort of art of writing. So yes, because I remember we were talking about the thing about adjectives. But he doesn't really like adjectives like adverbs, really, extremely, all of that sort of thing. But it's fascinating as well, because he just, he's not just talking about it, he's done it. The guy's written so many, I don't know how many novels, and it's a really interesting glimpse. And they all say the same thing. For writing, you need to have the time, you need to have the space. You need to turn off everything and just start to write a first draft. Just write it. Don't edit it as you're writing it. Just write it, leave it, and then come back. Because we all, because we're so concerned about saying the right thing, we sort of self-edit as we're writing, and you never get anywhere. You just have to write it, write a draft, and then take it from there. What did someone say the other day? I can't quite remember the exact words she used, but just write without thinking and edit with a lot of thought.
Or edit without mercy or something.
Yes,
I think I saw the same meme.
Yeah, just get it on the page or on the screen. And one thing I've been doing recently is writing by hand. So turn off the computer, turn off the phone, and at least plan things out on a piece of paper. And I find that that's actually really quite helpful. It's less distraction, I suppose. So that's another tip.
Thanks. Well, we haven't had any questions come in. We've had a few hellos from Michelle, Catherine, and Lauren. And a lovely comment here from Jimena Judith. Jennifer is an amazing professional and person.
An old colleague from Linares, so thank you.
Fantastic. So, just before we finish off, Jennifer, you said your website's going to be available in the next couple of weeks, and we'll share a link to it back on the video when it's ready. What services do you offer to ELT professionals?
So a variety of things. The first one is website copywriting. So I I can write your website copy. We go through a process of discussing what you want to say, your brand voice, your audience, all of that kind of thing, and I can write the copy. I also do a website review service, because lots of people have a website that they've had for a couple of years that maybe they want to renovate a little bit, but they're not quite sure where to start. So I'd look at the website, the copy, and look at the sort of journey through the website, not from a technical point of view, but from a visitor point of view, and make some recommendations and give some feedback on that. And then I'm going to be experimenting with a coaching service called Website One-to-One, where a client who wants to write their own website copy or to renovate what they've got will meet up regularly and have some sessions to brainstorm the writing and then feedback on the writing. So it's a chance to be in the copy hot seat. And I do a similar service where somebody might select a piece of copy that they've written. So it could be one web page or a LinkedIn profile or a newsletter that they're just not happy with. So we go through it together online in an hour and just rewrite it and get it the way that you want it to sound. So that's kind of a rewrite service, but with some training there. And then I still do editorial services as well. So depending where people are in their project, a real deep dive edit into the structure and the flow of the text, or a final proofread before you publish and know that, there's no typos or there's no problems in the text. So those three, the websites, the copy coaching, and the editing.
Fantastic. And so until the website is ready, people can still contact you through LinkedIn.
Through LinkedIn would be great. Yes. The point that I know that writing about yourself is so difficult is because I've been writing about myself on my website. So anyone who's there, it can be done, but it's so helpful to have feedback, which is what I've been doing with mine. But yeah, it should be 15th of July as my mental deadline, which is
a month today.
Yeah,
awesome.
Let's see. Fingers crossed. But I'm always on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a good way to be in touch.
Fabulous. Cool. Well, if anybody is watching this on catch up and you've got any questions,
just put them in.
Pop them in the chat. Thank you so much for coming along this morning, Jennifer. I mean,
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's not a topic that we've really talked about, but it's so interesting, and I think it's something that so many of us are doing. Lots of people are becoming, I don't like the word, but teacherpreneurs, edupreneurs. And so having that confidence to sell ourselves a bit more.
Exactly.
Really
and sell ourselves honestly and transparently. We are providing services that help people change their lives, and I don't think that's an overstatement. Learning a language is just so important. What we help people do.
Yep, very true. Aren't we fabulous?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everyone have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you again for
thank you, and hope to see you soon. Okay.
Yep. Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Bye.